All right. Welcome to the BizDev podcast. My name is Edwin Fisher.
Hi, Edwin. How are you?
Good. I'm here with Angelo Lutz at the Kitchen Consigliere. Very excited to have you.
No problem.
I love this restaurant's one of my favorites.
Pleasure to be here today.
Yeah. So I just wanted to get started and ask a few questions about the business. Let's start off. How'd you get started?
Well, if you know my backstory, I went to prison in 2001. I was convicted in the Eastern District of Pennsylvania in a RICO trial, mostly revolving around an illegal gambling enterprise. When I came home from prison as a convicted felon, there aren't many opportunities for you. Basically, the doors are closed on you. So I had an opportunity arise from a gentleman named Jim Barry. At the time, he was at Philly.com. And Philly.com had a video unit. And at that time, Brian Tierney was the head of the Inquirer at that time. And he would take gambles on things. So they had this video unit, which was really ahead of its time.
Okay.
And not to say to anybody, Inquirer really didn't know what to do with it. It's probably one of their biggest mistakes, and it's probably why they're the way they are today. But this video unit used to do little things like the gossip and little shows and things like that. Dan Gross was there. He used to do video. Marnie Holt did the gossip. So they had all these little different things they were doing. So he had this idea of, I always had a propensity to tell stories, and I had this cooking idea, and it was cooking with the Kitchen Consigliere. So he wanted to do a cooking show that revolved around like a lot of my life stories and crazy things that I did.
Mm-hmm.
So hence we came up with Cooking with the Kitchen Consigliere, and there were pros and cons about it. So like he really ran it like this black ops operation.
Okay.
And he started taping it behind the scenes. Nobody really knew what we were doing. And then he had like what we call in the can. He had like 3 or 4 shows in the can. And then he launched it like right before Thanksgiving. I forget what year it was. It had to be maybe 9, I believe. And he launched it, and it became a big hit. And basically what would happen is I would cook, tell stories, and they would revolve around like my life, around my friends, or my life meeting guys in prison. And, we would just do things. And the next thing you know, got a little traction. People were seeing it. And we got opted. So when I say opted, what happened was somebody in New York saw it, a guy named John Parsons, and he wanted to opt me. So in other words, he wanted me to sign an option so that he could shop it around and try and get a TV show, reality show, all that other stuff. So what happened was we signed the option one day. Well, actually at the time then, I was also doing, when I was filming that, George Anastasia, the Inquirer reporter, was filming these mob scenes or something in Philly.
Okay.
So the guy actually went to George, and George came to me, and a guy named Steve Martorano. He was a DJ, not the Steve Martorano, the restaurateur. And he used to be on WIP, I believe. Okay. And they came to me and asked me if I wanted to sign the option. So yeah, I signed the option. There was very little money involved, but basically he owned my rights for a year. So they said, well, where do you want to go sign? I said, I want to take you out to eat. So I said, I've been wanting to try this Mr. Joe's down on 8th Street, across the street from Termites. Vince Termini owns it. It's his concept. So when we were sitting in there, and this lady, Anna Marie, she's the best. She would wait on you. She'd come in and ask you want a glass of wine, and very limited menu, Italian peasant food. So as we're sitting there, I was saying to George, this is my idea. He goes, what are you talking about? I said, I could do this. And I explained to him, like when I was in jail and I would walk the track with some guys from New York or wherever, I would say to them, we would talk about, my idea was to write a cookbook called Kitchen Consigliere, Cooking with the Kitchen Consigliere, which I still haven't done.
Yeah.
And I says to try to pitch open up a restaurant serving peasant food. And like Rayo's in New York, they serve what they call pasta and lendique, which is really nothing more than lentils in a broth with spinach over pasta. They get and they get $19, $22 for it. Mm-hmm. They got about $3 on the plate. So, and I said, I could do this. So at the time, and I've told this story, I had, my mother had passed away when I was in prison, and that's a whole horse of another color. How horrible the Bureau of Prisons treated me, trying to get a deathbed visit and all. They're just rotten people. So anyway, yeah, you could get a deathbed visit if you become a rat. So,
Man.
you know,
Yeah.
you want to make up stories and lies about your friends. I mean, I don't even want to go there,
Yep.
It's so ridiculous. But anyway, so what happened was I needed to turn around and say I said, well, let me backtrack. So I decide that I'm going to open up this restaurant. So my mother had passed away at the time, and she had left me the house, and so I had this piece of property that was worth something. So I said, well, I'm going to look for a restaurant. So I figure, well, property's worth X. I'll ask for half of X, and I'll get a mortgage and do what I have to do.
Okay.
So before I went to prison, the mortgage market hadn't imploded. So at that time, if you needed to get a mortgage,
really
all you do was get 2 paychecks, have somebody print up a W-2 or whatever, and you would get a mortgage. Well, when I was in prison, this mortgage market imploded.
Yeah.
So it's not like that anymore. Now you had to have tax returns and all this other stuff. So, where was I going to get tax returns now? I'm in prison for 7 years. I can't produce anything. So I couldn't get money anywhere. It wouldn't matter that, like, the house was worth 2 and I was only asking for 1. So they were they didn't care. Couldn't get a mortgage.
Just because your record?
No, not because of my record, because the government mandated on any loans now, because they bailed everybody out, because the mortgage market was so greedy back then, that you couldn't get a loan unless you had all those documents, 2 years tax returns, and I didn't have any of that.
I see.
So what I wound up doing was I went to a hard money lender, which is legalized loan sharking, and I made this elaborate boutique deal where I wound up borrowing $100,000 on my home with a 1-year loan. And look, the woman that gave it to me, like, I wouldn't be here today if she didn't do it. So I borrowed $100,000 for 1 year, paid prepaid 10 payments. I'm sorry. I borrowed $100,000 at 15.9%, and I prepaid, I believe, 2 payments. I had to pay 5 points. It just went on and on and on. The government, I owed a fine at the time. They didn't want to know nothing. They wanted their $14,000 off the top. There were some water bills and all over my house and everything. Bottom line was, on $100,000, I walked away from the table with $57,000.
Okay.
So I lost half at the table. I'd found this place around the corner at 8 Pal Lane. It was a Texas Wieners at the time. And I decided I'm going to open up this restaurant because I said, I think I could do this. I found the place.
This was your first restaurant?
That was the first restaurant around the corner at 8 Pal Lane. And the most important thing was, and the reason I gambled and did it was because it had what they call the hood in it. So, like, if you're going to do a restaurant venture, okay, and you're really not that well capitalized, you try to find a place that went out of business because it has what they call the hood. That's very expensive to do.
To install.
Correct.
Okay.
So you have half the battle already done if you find the hood.
I see.
So the place had the hood. So, I start, talking to the landlord. Even if at that point I didn't even think they wanted to rent to me because, I was a convicted felon and all. But his name was Charlie. He was really a nice guy. And then I worried about, was the town Collingswood going to accept me? I didn't know what Collingswood was.
Yeah.
They were happy to have me because at the time I had all these videos on Philly.com, so they felt they were having like a micro celebrity chef come to town. And next thing you know, I risked everything. I was a gambler my whole life. I was a degenerate gambler, to be honest with you. And I was a gambler my whole life, and I took the ultimate gamble. I gambled on myself. And I opened up the Kitchen Consigliere, and against all odds, it's 9 years later, and we're in a new location, which we moved into 6 years ago. And we're going strong, and the brand is about to open up a second restaurant in a year.
Awesome.
So
where at? If you disclose it.
It's in Washington Township, New Jersey.
Oh, great. So how was that first year of business?
Very, very hard.
Okay.
So I had, at that time, I did have some help. There were some people involved with me, very nice people. Fortunately, we just didn't see eye to eye. And we put the place together, and they exited at some time. And, it was very hard. We didn't know where our next dollar was coming from. You're building a business from nothing. A lot of people said to me, I never forget when I went to go rent it from the guy Russell that owned the Texas Wieners. He was going out of business. He says, I couldn't make it here. What makes you think that you're going to make it? I said, I really don't know. I said, when I was on trial and I was, of all my co-defendants, I was the only one that had bail, and I paid for it in the end because the judge absolutely hated me. But I kind of like every day would give interviews to the press and everything. And, I kind of became like a micro celebrity, if you want to call it that. So I said to him, well, you know what? I said, a lot of the press owes me for giving interviews and stuff, so I'm going to ask them all to give me some publicity. And sure enough, 2 weeks before I opened, the Inquirer did a big business story on me. The day I opened, Jen Frederick from Fox 29 went live. So we got a lot of publicity and a lot of traction when we opened up. There was all kind of stuff going on. So, and people came, and there were some people that genuinely won't come and eat at this restaurant to today because I'm a convicted felon and they consider me scum of the earth. But there are a lot of people that said, hey, look, let's give that guy a play. Yeah. And then, some people liked me, and we just built it. And it was, I consider myself a friendly guy, and I would come out, I would be cooking, and I would come out and greet people and put stuff on the stove. I had a little assistant with me, and he would saute, and I said, well, watch this, and I'd go out, shake everybody's hand. I started it really, everybody started following suit because they had no choice. I brought that Mr. Joe's of give everybody a glass of wine. So if you didn't come into my restaurant with wine, we were giving you a glass of wine. People were just coming in for that. Yeah. So, it just was a lot of work.
That's really interesting. I mean, very entrepreneurial spirit. Where does that come from? Was that just, you've always been like that? Have you always had that inside you?
I mean, look.
Very creative.
I always felt that the old saying that the customer's always right, and I think in 6 years of business, or 9 years actually, 6 years here, that I think I could count on one hand the amount of times I've actually asked a customer to leave because they were either just taking advantage of us, or there was they were just couldn't do anything to make them happy. Yeah. I mean, they were just really just there to torture us. But I have a business manager. His name's Marty. We call him Marty Shopping Bag, and he really pounded it into me about how you have to be as a business person and a business owner, when he equated it to Mrs. Cohen when he was in the supermarket business. They owned shopping bags. Okay. When Mrs. Cohen came to Shopping Bag with a half a gallon of Pantry Pride's milk and told her tell them the milk was no good and that she bought it here. And Marty said, okay, Mrs. Cohen. Yeah. He took it back and gave her a half a gallon of Shopping Bag's milk. But Mrs. Cohen spends $200 a week in there. What are you going to do? So it's that's really basically what it is. Just today, I got a review on Yelp. Someone wasn't happy with the crab ragout. They were the service was impeccable. They weren't happy with how we did something else and all. So I responded to them, and I say to them, please contact our manager. We're sorry that you didn't have a great experience. And then we try to talk to that customer and see if we can maybe get them back in and do something to make their experience better, and it works out. Like one time I had a customer that didn't like the veal parm, said it was horrible. Well, at the time, unbeknownst to us, our purveyor had a miscode on what I ordered. So I buy all my veal from Catelli. As a matter of fact, Tony Catelli is a partner of mine in a meatball product that we sell in Acme and a few other supermarkets, Weiss and all. So we have a sausage meatball that we came up with and we sell it. And it's Kitchen Consigliere sausage meatball, and I distribute it with Catelli and Maglio. So Catelli sells it for me in a lot of supermarkets. So at the time, there was a miscoding on what we were supposed to be getting for our veal cutlet. Okay. So unbeknownst to us, we didn't know. We just thought we were getting what we were supposed to be getting. And it's true, the customer got a real bad experience on this veal cutlet. So when we realized, we called the customer and he said, look, blah, 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 blah. Next thing you know, he was a hit and miss customer. They eat here once a week now. Yeah. Because we brought him back in, we made the experience better for him. And now they come they come once a week, they come twice a month with bring different relatives in. So it's, look, it's a gamble. Business is a gamble. You just have to keep the customer happy. If you keep the customer happy, you have a 98% chance of them coming back and maybe bringing more people. Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. So how did you, in the early stages, how did you develop your team around you? Did you know people in the restaurant industry, or did you kind of,
Now, in the
you know?
beginning, I didn't know who. I didn't even have a chef. I just knew I was going to cook, and we
Oh,
hired some
wow.
waitresses, and it's hit and miss. I mean, I've made enough mistakes to write 10 books.
Wow.
When I opened up, I didn't know the front of the house. I knew nothing about it. I was a caterer by trade.
And you just learned
I
as you
learned
went.
school hard knocks. To this day, I still make a ton of mistakes. But every mistake that I've made here, I've documented and learned from. And, we now have the book written for the new restaurant. And part of the problem is, we moved into this place and we did what we call retrofitted it.
Hmm.
So, I outgrew that restaurant. This restaurant here, I outgrew 2 weeks after I moved in. So this new facility is being built from the ground up, not by me, but by a landlord. But once we get what they call the box, then we tailor that to fit our needs. So the
Gotcha.
kitchen's built properly and everything. This is just where we're at now. It's just, we moved into an existing building. This was a restaurant that didn't make it.
Okay.
So we moved into this restaurant, and then we try to work around it. So again, you're working around somebody else's idea.
The cards that you have. Yeah.
Yes, you do. You're just working with the cards you're dealt. And it's very hard here.
With the new restaurant, are you going to have the same concept?
It's not going to be the same name.
Okay.
It'll be the same brand. Kitchen Consigliere is now a brand.
Gotcha.
There are Kitchen Consigliere meatballs. There's going to be Kitchen Consigliere sauce. There's a Kitchen Consigliere is a brand. So one of the more successful brands in the area is Lamberti. So it's going to be similar to like what Lamberti does. He has like Positano Coast. He has Cafe Aldo Lamberti.
Mm-hmm.
He has Tutti. He has different restaurants.
Yeah.
So this restaurant is going to be called Gennaro's by the Kitchen Consigliere.
Okay.
So it's going to be a different restaurant. It's going to be very family oriented. When I say family oriented, my family's from 9th Street. They were butchers and things like that. They've been in the food business their whole life. My grandfather actually invented the first noodle cutter that came to this country back in the early 1900s.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot of deep food roots. So that's what's kind of going to be on the walls. Like the Kitchen Consigliere Cafe is when given lemons, make lemonade.
Mm-hmm.
Life, went to jail, things like that. This is going to be totally different. It'll be a lunch and dinner spot. We'll do all the major takeouts, your Grubhubs, your this, your that, your DoorDash, your Caviars. And it'll be doing brunch on Saturdays and Sundays. So it's a totally different operation there. It's 4,800 square feet.
Oh, wow.
It's a huge restaurant.
And when's the timeline? When are you planning on launching that?
We're hoping sometime between August and September of next year.
Okay.
Based upon when the builder gives me the building.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how's that process work to find so say if someone wants to start a restaurant, if they're looking for start a team, would you start with their head chef? How do you go through finding your head chef?
Well, I mean, there's a right way, a wrong way, and my way. And you basically have to do it my way, and I'm currently going through that right now.
Okay.
I have someone here that's very talented, but he's just not getting it my way. He will eventually. So, there's a lot of chefs out there, and what I've noticed in hiring people is they're called clipboard chefs. My friend Jerome, who's a chef down at the saloon, he worked for me a little bit, and he had that famous saying when he worked in the casinos, they're clipboard chefs. They walk around, they're good at ordering things and delegating authority and spreadsheets and all, but when they really got to get into it, they can't. You know what I mean? They can't handle the pressure. They're clipboard chefs, and, there's a difference between, cooking everything and putting 2 little carrots and 3 green beans and a little piece of protein on a dish, as opposed to really getting in there and being in the trenches. You know what I'm saying?
Grinding it
so
through.
it's like I would equate it to a game, military strategy. There's a difference between those guys that are sitting at the war room table than the guys that are actually out there battling.
Oh, I see.
You understand? So you have to be in the trenches. You have to understand how it works. You're cooking something, and then the next thing you know, you have a customer say, "Well, I can't have sugar. I can't have this. I'm gluten intolerant. I can't have shellfish." And the next thing you know, you're using a tongue that may have had shellfish. It's a lot of different things. And so the biggest thing I think is you have to have 2 separate entities. So the restaurant has to function as one, but you have a back of the house and the front of the house.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 2 of them have to meld into one. So, I haven't in my business plan decided how I'm going to do that yet. And then am I going to have just a general manager and then have a back of the house and a front of the house manager, work into a general manager. I haven't decided what I'm going to do there, but you do. The back of the house manager is basically your head chef. The front of the house manager is your manager. And under that manager is your hostesses, your waitresses, and then your bussers and things like that. And then your back of the house manager is your chef, and then under him is your dishwashers, your dish room, and then they have this chef de cuisine. And listen, this restaurant ain't about that. You know what I mean? There's a guy that's the head chef. He's the kitchen manager. He does the ordering. He's on the line. I don't want one. I want somebody that's in there cooking with the guys, so they have the same level of respect with them. So you could call them saute guys. You know, one guy who works apps and salads, who works saute, things like that. And that's the way it is. So you have to all work together as a team. So you have to have the same level of respect for everyone, but at the same time, they have to understand one guy does have the responsibility of running everything.
What I see at a restaurant, I don't know much about the industry. I'm learning a lot just from you talking here. It seems like you have to be detail oriented because there's a lot of moving parts. Just like a restaurant owner, they have to be focused on all the little details. Is that a skill that you have to have?
I'm very anal about things, you know. And then unfortunately, with my employees, if somebody gets in my sights, it's the worst thing that could happen. So, you know, then I'm on that employee for like 2-3 weeks.
I see.
So just come do your job. Don't bring any drama to the restaurant. Do what you have to do and just do your job. I mean, that's the most thing with me. You know, I would say right now in the front of the house, it's probably the best staff I've ever had. My manager's Patsy Connor. She does a great job. She's also the head baker here, and she does all the baking. We're known for our desserts, and she probably has the best staff working for her right now. In 6 years in business, this is absolutely the best front of the house I have ever had. Causes me no issues. You have your little things like who's calling out and stuff like that, but I mean, I've gone through it from day one. Who's dating who in the restaurant, and then they're fighting and they're not talking and this and that. I mean, I have absolutely no drama in this restaurant right now in the front of the house. As far as the back of the house goes, the dish room's always been my Achilles heel. You know, it's not a great job. It's not a glamorous job, especially my dish room in here. It's not fitted properly. It's not done right. So it's not a workflow where it's an easy job to do. It's a little difficult. But right now, I would say we have 85% of a great crew here.
That's awesome.
So we have a few more working pieces. As far as my cooks and all, that's always been a problem too. We put out great food. My main guy, as far as my main operations guy that's actually running the line, cooking, he's great. His assistant's good. The new guy I brought in to run, he's doing a good job. He just has to understand my system. You know, so like that, it's all moving parts.
So I could tell you're very motivated and aggressive and very, you know, your entrepreneurial spirit. Where does your motivation come from?
So I tell everybody this, and it's real simple. So I was born, I'm an only child. So, so I got pinched. That's what we use for getting arrested. So I got pinched March the 30th of 2000. So I got out, I got bail. My father died, I got bail April 5th. On April 10th, my father died of metastatic prostate cancer. Thank God I was home. I had the monkey bracelet around my leg. You know, I was able to bury my father with my mother. So in April of 2006, I got a phone call. Well, not a phone call. On a phone call from prison, I found out that my mother had stage 3 lung cancer. So, you know, of course, the doctor, I talked to her on the phone from, I'm going to be able to cure your mother and everything like that. So I don't think any doctor should go out and make that assumption. So basically, she was able to treat the lung cancer. But the heavy doses of radiation, what happened was when my mother's capillaries, my mother was a heavy smoker. So when the capillaries in her lungs healed, it formed scar tissue. So basically what it did was it closed up all the air things in so my mother was basically strangling to death inside with the COPD. So that's basically was the cancer shrunk, but my mother just couldn't breathe anymore. So in other words, as the vessels were healing, the capillaries, I guess, whatever, the air things were constricting. So my mother was on oxygen and everything. So my mother succumbed in 2006 to cancer. And that's a whole story again about how despicable the BYOB was. So, you know, I'm an only child. I can't be there to bury my mother, can't do anything properly. So thank God I have a cousin, Patricia, who's like my sister. She is my sister. She did everything. She took care of my mother. She did no less for my mother than, in the end, her mother just recently passed a few years back, than I saw her do for her mother. And as her mother was expiring, I was there with her every day. I kind of did whatever I could to be there for her. So, and she had buried my mother. She did everything. She made all the funeral arrangements and everything. So everybody says to me, what is your motivation? When you physically, you know, I like my father and I, we never really saw eye to eye. I was kind of a disappointment in his eyes. So that's one thing that motivates me. But the other thing is when you physically couldn't be there to close the casket on your mother, because of some of the mistakes you made. And I did make mistakes, but there was a lot of guys that got up there and told lies about me and my friends. Okay. And cost us to be away from some of them to be away from their children and their wives. And, one guy, I sat there and watched them lie about me. So the point is that, when you can't be there as a result of your actions, whether they were good or bad, whether they were right or wrong, you live with that. So that's the drive. I just feel that I just need to can't fail. Failure is not an option for me. And that's what drives me every day. And to certain people that just want to see me fail. So I just keep going.
That's the fire that's pushing you. So I know you're very excited about this new restaurant coming out. What's exciting? What's like the most exciting thing you're going on at this restaurant, Kitchen Consigliere in Collingswood?
Well, what's exciting is I'm not stepping away from it. What's exciting is I have to figure out how I'm going to juggle these two.
Okay.
Because there is no Kitchen Consigliere if I'm not here. Yeah. So I have to find a way to be at both places. So I'm big, but I'm not that big. You know what I'm trying to say? Yeah. I'm a big guy, but I'm not that big. Yeah. So we have to find a way I have to find a way to be at two places. And I also have to find a way to meld my manager, Patsy, to make her the face of the restaurant. She's kind of a face of the restaurant now, but she has to become more of a face of the restaurant. I see. She's got to become part of the brand with me. So, Patsy and Angelo. It's kind of like Patsy and Angelo now, but she has to become part of the brand. Like there's certain nights of the week, like for instance, today, my Aunt Angie's here. So people know on Friday, they don't get to see her on Fridays because she doesn't work. She's not here certain nights to help me. Okay. But like on Tuesday nights, she may be here. For instance, there's a guy named Joe. They know certain nights Joe's here. It's that first person they see when they walk in. I tell my hosts and hostesses, you are the most important person in the restaurant because you are the person that they see when they walk in. Almost like
brand recognition.
Brand recognition. If they don't get greeted with a smile and how are you? Oh, I haven't seen you in 3 weeks. That's the most important thing. You always want everyone to feel special. That's great. So, and that's the biggest challenge we're going to have, and that's the most exciting thing. You would say, well, how's that exciting? It is exciting because we have to figure a way to do it. And we've always been talking about changing the menu here. And we're not going to do it between now and New Year's because we just can't. But come the New Year, there will be a new menu here. We're going to make some changes here to some of the things we do. Some of the regular things here are going to change because there's time for change. You have to change. Food costs are going up. As much as I love my customers, I have to change some prices. I have to take some things away. This is going to be the first year. Christmas and New Year's Eve, there's going to be a set menu. Oh, awesome. This is our menu. It's not going to be a set price, but this is the menu that you get. We're going to offer. I haven't opened my book for Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve yet. Okay. I usually do that about a week before Thanksgiving or right of Thanksgiving. So when people call to make orders, we're going to make the reservation. We start a waiting list. We're going to say to them, look, just letting you know this year there is going to be a set menu. We can email you. We'll take your reservation and we'll email you a copy of the menu. Then if they don't want, they can cancel the reservation. So, but this is it. This is all we're serving, and that's it.
That's great. That sounds exciting.
Well, it's because we can't just serve everything. Yeah. Can't kill the staff. This is it. And it's also a way that we can move the tables faster because we have a set menu. This is all we're serving, and that's the end of it. So that's one thing. We've never done that before, but we are going to do that.
That's great. I'm sure.
So that's a challenge. That's something exciting to me that we've never done before.
Something new to try.
Like, something exciting here is about 4 months ago, we started doing flatbreads. It's very hard to do when you don't have a pizza oven. Well, we found a way to do it.
Okay.
We found a product that allows us to do it just using a regular oven. And they come out great. Everybody's going crazy for them. So that was something new that we added, flatbread. You only do 2 of them.
Yeah.
We have a regular margarita every night and then a specialty flatbread. But people are loving it.
That's great. So just final question here. If someone's looking to, open up their restaurant or a new restaurant, what advice would you give them?
Don't.
Don't do it?
Just hard business.
Yeah.
It's a very hard business.
It's one of the hardest.
You have to be dedicated. I beat the odds.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be in that same category with the new restaurant. 2 and 3 restaurants fail. So just because I'm successful here does not mean I'm going to be successful there.
Yeah.
You just can't open up. So I'll tell you a story about a restaurant that just opened up in Washington Township. So I was competing. We were going to move about a year and a half ago. We looked at a restaurant in a shopping mall. So I couldn't reach an agreement with the real estate on the on the lease, the square footage and everything. I was a little skeptical about it. Plus, there was a little investor problem at the time. So I bickered over $1 a square foot with the landlord. So what happened was, at the same time, they weren't being righteous with me. They were negotiating with somebody else behind my back.
Gotcha.
So despicable people. So anyway, to make a long story short, we never heard from them. We're waiting. Here I find out they rented to somebody behind my back. That's fine. So here the person had rented it, renovated. Beautiful, nice guy. One of the nicest guys in the world that I've ever met. Unfortunately, he went in there, had some people that really didn't know the restaurant business involved with him. So they opened up the restaurant. The restaurant, unfortunately, didn't make it. But one of the reasons I ate there, the food was fantastic. But one of the reasons I felt personally, and I'm not, being a Monday morning quarterback, was you need to know the demographic of where you're opening up a restaurant. So one of the things that we did was we had a firm in California do a demographic study for us back then.
Yeah.
And we used it, updated it again for this restaurant. Like, I know what the nationality breakdown is, the race. I know what
median income.
I know everything about that town and the area. So I know how to price my menu. So like, even some of my prices here are a little expensive. So in that town and the way that town operates, you just can't be an a la carte menu. It has to be super salad. You have to do something. So you can't sell whole bronzino for $42 and then expect everybody to pay their sides. It's not going to happen. It's not that type of thing. Do you understand what I'm trying to say to you? So you have to know. So that's one of the most things that you have to think about. Like, what is your business plan? What is people just open up. They don't have any concept for the neighborhood. They just think, well, I'm gonna open up a gelato place, or I'm gonna do this. How does it fit in? Like, there's been plenty of opportunities for me to do other things on the avenue here. I have a parking lot here, so it helps me a little bit. Anybody wants to open up a business, where do you park?
Yeah.
There's no place to park. I've been wanting to put the girl that does the baking here. There's no place for her to, even if it wasn't to sell stuff, because in certain areas on Hatton Avenue you have to have retail. There's no place to park. Yeah. Parking is a big issue. So if someone wants to open up a restaurant and all, I mean, my advice is don't. But here's an example. So I'll back up on that. The fortunate thing for me is, if my staff wants a buck on me, and I tell them this all the time, I don't care what you do, walk out. You've got it messed up here. I could get behind that stove and cook. It's the person that wants to become a restaurateur that can't cook.
Yeah, okay.
In other words, you see what I'm trying to say to you?
Leverage.
They don't have no leverage. In other words, what happens when the chef walks out? Yeah. What happens when the chef cuts his hand one day? I got to go back behind that stove. See, that's the difference. When someone just wants to become a restaurateur, if you can't cook, if you can't do when you're in business and you own a business and you can't do what the business does, or you don't have the expertise to do and fulfill what the business is all about, you're in trouble. Yeah. What are you in business for? So in other words, God forbid, which is not the case, I really have to cut expenses here. I have to let somebody go. I got to go back to work. Unfortunately, I don't really work here. This is an investment for me. I don't work anymore. Unfortunately, I really can't. But this is just an investment for me. So I'm here a couple days a week. I walk around and everything. I'm to the point now where it's an investment, in the brand. I don't work anymore. But the point is that you just have to, you have to be able to. God forbid if something happened to somebody. And that when I first, did it, that's what it is. You have to be able to do something. So any person that goes into business, don't want a business that you can't, if they hold you hostage, they're going to hold you hostage.
Yeah.
I've learned shoot the hostage. So you know what I mean from somebody. Just shoot. Don't. So that's the most important thing. And do your homework. Know what's around you. Know what the other restaurants are selling things for. Know what you could sell something for. That don't mean I don't undercut anybody here. In other words, a matter of fact, I'm a little bit higher than most people for stuff, but I get it. We give them a good experience here.
Great quality.
I get reviews where, it was kind of high, 2 people, X amount of dollars. Well, you know what? You come here, we give you a decent experience. We give you a complimentary salad with your meal. We give bread. There's one restaurant on the street here, charges $5 for bread and butter.
Wow.
Thank God bless him, he gets it. Do you understand? How do you charge for bread and butter? He does, because he claims he bakes his bread, which he does. He knows how to bake special bread basket, but you're charging $5 for bread and butter. I mean, think about this. I mean, now if you open up from day one and you train your customer to pay you $5 for bread and butter, God bless you. Bona fortuna. You did it. Do you understand?
Yeah.
But change is very, very, very hard to instill upon a customer. So we're going to make some changes here that some of my customers are not going to like when I put out the new menu, but it just has to be done. And, we'll acquiesce a little bit as the changes go along, but eventually they'll just go away. These are just changes that we have to make. Like when lettuce was $99 a case, there were places, I went to a place to get a salad one day, they were charging $3 extra for the salad because it was $99 a case last year. We were still giving out salad here. Wow. We didn't say, we're going to now charge you $1 because it's $99 a case to the complimentary salad. You have to just eat it and average it out at the end of the year.
Work it out,
That's all part of being in business. So I hope I helped you out.
No, wealth of knowledge. I'm going to learn a lot about your operations here. It's a really great place. Would you want to suggest your website? Or?
Well, we're here at 700 Haddon Avenue, Collingswood, New Jersey. We're open Monday through Friday. From 3:30. Well, Monday through Thursday, we're here like 3:30 to 9. On Friday, we're here from 3:30 to 9:30, quarter to 10. Saturday, we open up 3:30 to, same thing, 9:30, 9:45. Sunday, 1:30 to 9. www.kitconcafe.com. The holidays are coming up. We're going to have gift cards. We give a $20 bonus on 100. And purchased. And stay tuned. Black Friday, there's always a special. It's a cash only special. I don't want to announce what it's going to be right now. You'll just, there's going to be a big special. It'll be on Facebook and Instagram what it's going to be. It's always a cash only, but it's more than 20 on 100.
Okay.
So,
awesome. Great. Yeah, I had a great time. Angelo.
All right.
Once again, my name is Edwin Fisher with the BizDev podcast, and yes,
take care.
Good talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Awesome, Angelo. Thank you so much, man. Really interesting story.